Now, two bills are set to be proposed in Iowa this legislative session. That session got going this morning. It runs until April 21st or thereabouts, as long as they get their work done. These two bills, both authored by the same lawmaker, Ken Croken, who represents Iowa's 97th House District in Davenport. Now, one bill would ban law enforcement from wearing masks. The other would ban the apprehension and detention of people while they're in courthouses, churches, schools, etc. Representative Croken joining us now. Thanks for taking a time out from the legislative session down in Des Moines. These two bills, what is the goal here, and what led you to introduce these in the state of Iowa?
Well, many of the residents of this community are scared. They don't go to grocery stores. They're not going to churches. They're keeping children home from school. It's terrorizing for people. And I suppose the other concern is the notion that you might go to a hearing, a scheduled hearing with immigration officials in a courthouse, only to find yourself under arrest. That's happened here, and not fair, not right. So I'm hoping to have people find safe places in the community where they can go without fear of apprehension and detention.
Yeah, and that's so courthouses, churches, schools, etc.
Yes.
And then the other bill about banning law enforcement from wearing masks. I mean, is your bill written in such a way that that would include federal agents?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Our Davenport police force do not wear masks in the performance of their routine duties. When it's worn for personal protection, that's a different story. But, masks in the performance of routine duties should be limited to criminals and trick-or-treaters, not law enforcement officials, and federal agents are the ones who are abusing that.
Okay. Well, give us a little context too here in terms of the enforcement and immigration enforcement that you have seen both in your district there in the Quad Cities down in the southeast part of the state, but across the state of Iowa. What's been the experience?
Well, we've had a number of instances that I certainly find very troubling. A young man, I think he was 22 at the time, again went to a courthouse to a regularly scheduled check-in appointment with immigration officials, only to find himself arrested and put on a plane and returned to Honduras, I think he was. This was a young man who never committed a crime. He came here with his father many years ago when he was just a juvenile. Led his high school soccer team to a state championship, worked every day in construction. These are the very people we want living in our communities, and we have these other folks who are taking them away from the community without the due process they deserve or the community input they ought to want.
Okay. I mean, what level of certainly federal agent, I guess, activity or presence have people seen across the state of Iowa? I mean, we're undergoing a surge here in the Twin Cities and parts of Minnesota. What is the experience in Iowa? I mean, any idea?
Yeah, thank God we have not seen the kind of intensified enforcement that you all in the Twin Cities have experienced. But I do believe it's a matter of time before we will. In fact, I've also scheduled a community meeting for later this month, where one of the alderwomen from Chicago is coming to speak to us about how that community has prepared and how we can best avoid the tragedy of Renee Good without experiencing that here. No one likes to be stopped by a masked stranger and asked what they're doing because the masked stranger doesn't like the color of their skin. That gets people at odds and sets the stage for an altercation that no one wants to see in retrospect. So we're trying to prepare as a community.
What are the chances of these two bills making it through committees and making it back to the floors and being passed and being signed and becoming law? I mean, is this a long shot that you see these bills, or do you have a lot of support?
Well, even long shot might be too generous a description. Today is the first day of our General Assembly, so it's hard for me to gauge. But in light of the GOP supermajority here in Iowa in the House of Representatives, I'm not sure there is a support. I should say I'm optimistic, but
so
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So, I mean, is this in light of that, and what you kind of paint as the picture here? Do you have another motivation for introducing these, just to try to get attention for the issues?
Well, I think that's the motivation for much of the legislation we introduce, not just here in Iowa, but Minnesota and elsewhere. These conversations never conclude before they begin. And the way they begin is someone stands up and says, that's not right. Let's change this. There ought to be a law, right? So you introduce these laws, and again, with time and consideration, hopefully we will find ourselves with a majority in agreement.
All right. Representative Ken Croken, who represents the Quad Cities area, Davenport, joining us from the State House there, from the Capitol in Des Moines, which is a beautiful building.
Absolutely.
Been in there many times. I went to high school in Des Moines. I worked in Des Moines. So I appreciate you taking some time out here on day one of your session.
Funny you should say that. I spent a lot of time in Minneapolis. In fact, I brought my very young family to Minneapolis many years ago, and we lived not far from the site of the shooting. So this feels a little personal to me too. I love the Twin Cities.
Well, that's interesting connection. All right. Thank you again for taking time out from the floor there. Appreciate it. We'll let you get back to work.
Thanks for your interest.
All right, there you go. That's Representative Ken Croken from the state capitol in Des Moines, as their legislative session started a few hours ago, scheduled to run until April 21st or thereabouts.